Hello, I'm Francis Seeley from Enfield Climate Action Forum, and in this video we talked to Karen Davies, who spoke to our forum a while ago, and she told us about Purple Shoots, which is an organisation set up to use microcredit to help people who live in impoverished communities. But rather than me tell you about it, let's hear what Karen has to say about what Purple Shoots actually is.
Purple Shoots is a charity fundamentally that I set up to tackle poverty, unemployment, financial exclusion, social isolation through enterprise. So one of the key things we do is microcredit, but only to the most marginalized in our society, only to people that nobody else will help, and only and it's to enable them to start a business. So it's not for them to buy an emergency washing machine or anything like that. There are providers that do that, but ours is just to enable people to start a business. So it's very transformational for the people that we help because they're starting with nothing and no hopes, trapped in this benefits system that we've been talking about. And if they can get a loan and get a business off the ground, that's a route out, and it starts to address the poverty that they're in. And they are local businesses, so they produce wealth that stays in the local community. And I mean, I would argue that they're greener than bigger businesses because they use local employees, local suppliers, and so on. But that's another issue. But so that's one of the big things that we do. So we are a CDFI, a Community Development Finance Institute, but we're a slight misfit amongst them because we're not, we deal with such a different client base. Then the other thing that we do is related. So we do a lot of support for the people that we help, but we obviously we copied the microfinance idea from Grameen, and we copied the groups that they established I went on a trip to India and looked at the self-help groups in India, and I also visited some groups in Uganda. So we call them self-reliant groups here because self-help groups has got different connotation. But these are groups of people that come together initially as support groups with an enterprising sort of element. So we encourage the groups to save together and to try out enterprising ideas of some sort. Lots of our groups are more interested in things in their community and changing things in their community than in enterprise. But they do all different things, and it's hard to explain because they're all led by the people who are in them. So I can't say we follow this program and they do this. So it's different.
Clearly, microcredit helps individuals, but it also helps to build community by those individuals getting together. So it develops what you might call self-reliant groups. And again, Karen tells us about that.
So a number of them start. So I have to say, a lot of the members in the groups, I imagined that they would be sort of people who are going to definitely go along and start a business, but a lot of them are either have caring responsibilities. They're usually women. A lot of them have health issues or they have disabilities, which severely limits their ability to work. So working together makes a big difference. But what is surprising is when they come together and with a lot of their own issues, a lot of the chaos that's full of their lives, but they look outwards. And so we've had one group, for example, where they save money together, they make a bit of money from they do some crafty stuff and make some money that way. But they noticed in their community that there were lots of young people who couldn't cook and just didn't have normal life skills. So once a month they run a sort of a life skills club for the young people in their community and teach them cooking and sewing and things like that. So that's one group. There's another group that runs little community events where they are, film nights and things like that, because it was a poor community that didn't have anybody running that sort of thing. So they organise tea dances and all sorts of things for their community. There are others that have done sort of cleanups in their community or created a community garden or what else? There's quite a mix, and yet we do have people who do go on and start businesses and move into self-employment. So it's a big range. But in the third world models is a lot more about lending money to each other. The way our groups seem to have worked is a lot more about saving money together, building up a pot, and then doing something with that pot of money that's positive, either to help each other, but often it's not. It's to do something So there's another group actually of women with disabilities who've started another group, a different group, where they're teaching other people their skills. So the act of coming together has some quite surprising and, well, I suppose I was surprised, unexpected results.
So we asked Karen how microcredit actually works. Is it about grants? Is it about loans? What is it? She explains.
Um, Often they don't need, because they don't usually start anything ambitious until they've saved up enough money, so they don't need to borrow. So in all honesty, the number of loans we've lent to group members is really small. They tend not to need to borrow. Where they have borrowed, we've done it on very favourable terms. It's usually been, so we had one group that was doing well, they started off doing sort of visiting elderly people in their community just as company, and then they ended up being asked to do stuff for them, sort of bit of shopping, hoovering. So they wanted to buy a good quality hoover. So we lent them the money for that, and then they paid it back. But often they seem to have accumulated enough money from their savings and little income generating activities that means they don't need to borrow.
The problem is that when an individual starts a business, especially a small business on the basis of microcredit, they come front to front with the benefit system and they find some of their income that they generate, small that it is deducted from the benefits. How much of a problem is this?
So there is an issue, and we are constantly lobbying Parliament to try to get it changed, because what happens is if somebody borrows money from us to start a little business and they're on benefits, they have to report monthly, like little monthly management accounts, and the stupid benefit system takes the balance of the income and the expenditure from the business as their income and use that to deduct from the benefits, which is monstrous, because that isn't their income, that's the business's income, and they need that balance for the next month to maintain the business. So it creates a big problem for them, and I mean most of them soldier through it, but it needs addressing, and it's such a simple solution. I mean, they just need to take the business owner's drawings as their income and not the business's profit, because they might make a profit one month and then next month they will make a loss, and they'll need there's no profit to cover it. So it just jeopardized businesses. And then after 12 months, they hit what they have to. There's an assumption by the DWP that they're earning the minimum wage, and then the benefits are cut, assuming that they're earning the minimum wage. And obviously, most businesses are not generating that much for their owners at that point. But nevertheless, loads and loads of people do this. They don't want to be on benefits, and so they try. And we support them as much as we can.
We mentioned self-reliant groups, and in the course of climate change, self-reliant groups are important because they help people to get together to protect themselves from extreme weather. They help climate adaptation. So, to what extent can microcredit help in a time of climate change?
So it's a bit early days at the minute, but we're working on a project in Sheffield where they want to combine um, a lot of green issues with financial inclusion, sort of a holistic fund, I suppose, that will support larger green projects as well as very small community-based projects. And the aim is that some of those community projects will be led by self-reliant groups, small community groups that care about that sort of thing. So I definitely think it's possible, and if this project works, it's replicable, so it would be good. And there's quite a lot of people taking an interest in it because of the range of organisations that might be involved in it. So we could get funders in to fund bigger green energy type projects or home conversion projects or something, but also much smaller projects.
So, for example, do they use microcredit where a street may want to set up a network of energy based upon solar panels on roof? Is that something that microcredit could help with?
Yes, that is exactly what they're trying to do, and what we hope we might achieve in Sheffield. Yeah.
Of course, we're also interested in talking about the homeless and the housing crisis we have. So, to what extent has microcredit and particularly purple shoots help those people who are facing a housing crisis or facing the risk of homelessness?
Well, homeless people on the whole are not ready to start a business. so that it's better if they have some sort of accommodation first. But we have worked with quite a number of ex-offenders, and they are often released either completely homeless, they're not supposed to be, but they are, or they are in temporary hostels, or they're with family that don't really want them. And in those cases, where we've lent them money to start a business, it's enabled them to build up enough reserves to pay the deposit to rent a property. We've had I think three who've managed to do that. They started we lent the money, they started the business from where they were staying and built up enough to get themselves into their own rented place, which has worked well.
Finally, we asked Karen the difficult question. If someone wanted to set up a microcredit system in any part of the United Kingdom or anywhere, how would they go about it and how difficult is it?
Well, you've got to have a plan, and the big barrier for small microcredit organisations setting up is that you have to have FCA authorisation, and that is a real pain to get. So there is a very small version of us in Leeds that I think they've managed to do 3 loans so far. It's really tiny. It took her 18 months to get FCA authorization and a lot of legal fees. So that is a huge barrier to microcredit organisations setting up. So when I started Purple Shoots, my idea was that we would run it in Wales and then we would replicate it. So we'd encourage somebody else to do it in different parts of the UK. But what's happened is nobody wants to do that because it's too difficult. So they do it. So we've got basically satellite offices. So in the West Country in Yorkshire, where people are employed by us and do it under the Purple Shoots banner. So that's an issue. And raising the money is the other issue, because we are battling against the stigma of the people that we're serving. So the people that a lot of finance people won't fund the people we serve because they think they're scroungers or lazy or useless. And so why would they fund an organization that wants to support them? And that is a big problem for us raising money. So, and there is nothing, the government does nothing to support this end of the market. They talk a lot about supporting small businesses, and so do all the government bodies like the British Business Bank and Federal Finance, but they don't help the really difficult stuff at the bottom end. So raising money is a huge issue as well. I don't want to put anyone off though, because I'd be very happy to help anybody who wanted to try to set one up. And I can share policies and applications and everything. So I don't want to put anyone off, but it's a struggle.